This is Marvin L. Storm. Today we're here with Roman Basi. Roman, you're from a company called taxplanning.com, or that's your domain anyway. Why don't you talk a little bit about your company and a little bit about where you're located, so our audience here can get an idea of what you do and how you do it.
Sure. The company name is the Center for Financial, Legal, and Tax Planning. We also go by Basi and Associates. The company was founded by my father, Dr. Bart Basi, back in the late 80s, early 90s. And
When you say doctor, what degree did he hold?
Right. My father holds a PhD in economics, and he is an attorney and CPA, and still very active in our company to this day. He's 81 years old. I am 45 years old, and I am an attorney, CPA, real estate broker, as well as a title insurance agent. And I am the president of our company to this day. And as you mentioned, the domain name for the business is taxplanning.com, and you can find a lot of information about our company right there. We keep a very active website. Our company specializes in mergers and acquisitions of privately held companies across the United States. And with that, we do business valuation, business tax planning, succession planning, estate planning. And because of my real estate background, we do quite a bit of real estate planning and real estate work, again, for mainly small privately held companies across the United States. And when I say small, the definition of small is a company with 50 million or less in assets. So most everybody listening is probably fitting into that definition. Our corporate headquarters are located in Marion, Illinois, which is close to Southern Illinois University, which is where my father took one of his 2 professional retirements from over the years. But we do operate all over the country. We do have an office in Florida as well, and we do operate in all 50 states. And I work with clients all over the country with our areas of expertise.
So did you sort of jump right into the family business, or did you have a career that was outside of the family business?
Oh, it's a great question. So I graduated with a biology degree and thought I was going to go
that fits, doesn't it?
thought I was going to go to medical school or physical therapy school. And I sort of did a 180 when I graduated and came back home and started working for one of our other companies. My father started investing in real estate in 1978 and started to invest in real estate properties over all those years. When I joined him in 1997, I took over our real estate operation. At that time, I was working on my master's in business administration. I started to do the 180 and started to do that. So I joined in our real estate operation, ran that company for 3 years. And then I also started to work here in our law firm and accounting firm. Right around the year 2000, I really started to get involved with the merger and acquisitional activity that we had then. And it was fairly light back then. I became a lawyer in 2003, and then I got my law license in 4 different states, just because we were getting a little more active other than merger and acquisition in those states. And then about 8 years ago, it's been about 8 years now, maybe longer, I took over the full operation of our law firm and accounting firm. Again, my father is still with us to this day. He works mainly out of our Florida location, but stays very active. Sometimes works harder days than I do on a given day. But I took over our operation. I took over the day-to-day operation and have been running our companies ever since. And we've seen a tremendous increase in our merger and acquisition.
When you say you have your real estate operation, why don't you talk a little bit about that? Is that residential, commercial? Is it a brokerage, or is it a family office where you buy properties for your own account or clients' accounts?
I became a managing real estate broker, which is Illinois. That's the highest level of brokerage you can have in 2003. So I've been a broker for a real estate broker for many years. I took over our operation, which was at the time, we had about 70 units of property. Those units consist of apartment buildings, duplexes, commercial buildings. We had a few storage units back then, and I was managing our own operation. I did broker for a little while. We had we have our own real estate investment holding company where I own all of the properties. And then I started a brokerage company where I could broker real estate out of. As I got busier in the law firm and accounting firm, I stopped brokering for other people for the most part. Every once in a while, I will represent a client as a buyer's representative only, just because a buyer is going in and buying a big commercial property or a big home or a big real estate facility. And I will do just a small amount of brokering, so I do keep my brokering license active. However, the operation mainly consists now of properties that we continue to invest in: commercial buildings, apartment buildings, duplexes, things along that nature of lines. Now we have close to 400 units of property. When I say unit, one unit may be an efficiency apartment, but one unit may be a 10,000 square foot VA administration center that I built and rented to the VA. So some of our units are all over the place. We have an entire staff that runs that office for me: property manager, assistant property manager, maintenance staff, and they do a wonderful job of that. So yeah, that keeps us quite busy. But our M&A side, our law firm and accounting side, currently we have five attorneys, excuse me. We have 5 attorneys, we have 2 law clerks, and we have 3 CPAs, and we continue to grow. I like that size for an M&A division of a company. That's a good size. I don't care if you're a 100-person law firm or a small law firm. What's the division of the M&A size? And we're in a good spot right now, and we continue to grow as our transaction deals go up.
So as you kind of described your core competencies and the kind of suite of services that you're offering. So you have, your M&A side. What else do you do? Do you do valuations? Do you do consulting? Are you paid on a fee basis, or are you paid on a success fee basis when you are treated as an M&A advisor? So talk a little bit about, what you do and how you're compensated for it.
So the areas that we do, right? We value companies, and we are fee based on everything that we do. But we are valuing companies. We are doing tax analysis for companies. We are helping companies from start to finish with the transaction, whether it be negotiating the transactions, helping them with due diligence, helping them with closing schedules, closing deliveries, definitive purchase agreements. And another big part of our firm, since we are CPAs, we do accounting, we do bookkeeping, we do after transaction accounting, we do personal tax returns, we do company tax returns. We are in the thousands with the returns that we file a year. We have a young lady that's been with us for 24 years, the same time frame I've been working with my family as well. And she's a CPA out of Purdue, and she has been running our accounting division for practically 24 years. And so we do a lot of day-to-day accounting for our clients. Consulting is a big piece of it. Yes, we consult with companies. We create written strategic plans for companies, how to maximize their operations, how to be more efficient for tax purposes. Do they have real estate? Do they need a limited liability company? Do they need a series limited liability company? We create written strategic plans, written succession plans for companies, and then we help them implement those plans. We are not brokers. We are not merger and acquisition advisors that are success fee based. We need them. They are our bread and butter. Those men and women out there that are doing that bring us the majority of our business, and they're good at what they do. And they get that great success fee because they're good at what they do. So we really value their importance to our team, but we don't do that aspect. But all that other qualitative matter that I just described, we handle that from start to finish. We do some real estate, actual illegal work, so to speak. We do not do any litigation. We stay out of the courtrooms as much as possible. That's about it in a nutshell from the law firm and accounting firm side. And I don't talk about that accounting piece often enough, that we have an entire set of staff up in this office here in Illinois that handle accounting for clients across the country. So we're not just advising you on what to do with your tax structures. We are doing it for you. when you want that piece from us.
So when you do tax returns on the accounting side, and there's an audit, do you represent, and are you licensed as a agent, for the IRS to represent clients?
What's great there is that we are when we do something, even if we don't do it, even if you had someone else do it, another CPA or whatever do it, yes, we are involved in the audit of that. If a client gets questioned, or a client gets a letter audit in the mail, or the IRS is questioning something on a transaction, we will represent the client in front of the IRS to do that. Now, you talk about being an IRS agent. As an attorney or CPA, we don't have to have a qualification.
There's a term out there, or a license, or a category of a revenue agent or registered agent.
That's right. There's terminology that you might hear: registered agent, enrolled agent. There are certain classifications within the IRS where certain individuals can do certain things. There's also something called a tax return preparer that can be registered with the Internal Revenue Service. As a lawyer and as a CPA, I can simply have a power of attorney over the client, over the company, over the individual, and then I can represent that client, that company, in front of the Internal Revenue Service on an audit, on a tax return, whatever it may be. My father and I, one of the things that we do, we give a lot of continuing education. One reason why, when you asked me to do the podcast today, we do a lot of podcasts, we do a lot of webinars. It's part of our bread and butter of education. The IRS has a program called the Annual Filing Season Program. It is 18 hours of education given by a provider. When they take an 18-hour course, it can be any individual that you want. No, you got to be 18 years old. That's the only qualification. You have to be 18 years old, and you could be a tax return preparer. And if you take this 18-hour education every year, it's called an Annual Filing Season Program, then you are registered with the IRS. You are listed on their website. Someone in your town or your area is trying to find a tax return preparer. They go onto the IRS website and they will find these individuals that have taken our class. My father and I have given the course for over 10 years now on a platform called My Tax Courses Online. And we are the educational person that platform hires to give 18 hours of education so that the IRS will register that person. So our programs are audited by the IRS. We are teaching those individuals how to do tax returns. We are teaching them about the tax laws that have came out over the last year, about anything. The IRS gives us a very definitive outline of what we have to teach. So not only are we available for accounting and bookkeeping and auditing questions, and we don't audit companies. The one thing we don't do is we don't do any public auditing of companies, but we defend when the IRS has audited someone and whether or not their decision was appropriate or not appropriate, or whether we have case law to fight their decision. In fact, I just had a recent one on a state tax return where the IRS agent was in error, and we're still dealing with the error that took place and trying to get the error reversed before we end up in tax court. That's another caveat to my father and I, which a lot of attorneys have this distinction, but he and I have both been sworn in to the U.S. Supreme Court in front of all 9 judges at the same time in Washington, D.C. And what that means is we can take a case all the way to the Supreme Court. We are licensed in the Supreme Court to argue a case in front of judges. It's not difficult to get that done, but not every attorney has that. And what's really unique is that we would bring, if we ever brought a case and ever did that, it would be tax related. It would be audit related. It would be something that we are disagreeing with the IRS about and taking it to the U.S. Supreme Court to get that overturned somehow. So just a nice little feature. And I think he and I did that back in, I want to say the year was 2015. I think it's been 6 years since he and I did that. So a good little feature about our firm that we are capable of doing.
Okay. So when you take a look at the different chairs that you sit in, from the tax to advising, valuations, what would you say is one of the highlights or one of your most notable accomplishments or source of satisfaction that you had with a specific transaction or client?
You know, probably one that we talked about within the podcast, when probably those two that we talked about in the podcast, and that's why they stuck out to me as so successful. The element of working with family companies and just small privately held companies, kind of sort of family, but small privately held companies, is so satisfying as an attorney. You think about an attorney and a CPA, and one of the reasons why I speak publicly so much, I think alongside with my father, is we really do enjoy what we do. Our days are enjoyable. And when I see a company that I transfer from a mother and father to their daughter, and then I see the daughter have a successful sale of the business and be every level of that transaction being just ecstatic with the work that we do. I mean, how can it not put a smile on my face as an advisor to them? And then kind of the other one that we talked about, a company I've represented for 20 years, and then have to be able to take them to the closing table and be able to pick up the phone. We didn't close that one in person, although I like to close it in person. But to be able to pick up the phone after that one and just have a heart-to-heart conversation with that client about our relationship, our professional relationship over those 20 years, and to close it on such a good note. I mean, that's the climax of my career, to see that happen. Now, yes, can an attorney go to the Supreme Court, and that's our World Series of baseball stadiums? Yes. Would that be an important step in my career? Yes. But to be able to do what I do alongside my father on a daily basis, as much as he drives me crazy every day, is still the most enjoyable parts of my career.
Well, you certainly do communicate enthusiasm, and you can, anyone listening or watching our discussion here today can see the commitment and the satisfaction that you obviously garner from this. From the deals that you've worked on, if you had to say to yourself when you were 30 years old, what would be the advice you would give to yourself sitting in the chair where you have today, the experience you have? What kind of advice would you give that 30-year-old person?
It's a great question, because the young attorneys in my office are probably all right around that age these days. They're all in their early 30s, and this is the advice that I consistently hand out to them, being young in the field. I don't, whether you're an attorney, CPA, an advisor, broker, or someone just getting into the field of what we do, is these days the younger generation wants to go so fast through everything that they do. They definitely do not take the time that we learned to take when documents used to come in 20 years ago. Again, I'm 45. When documents would come in 20 years ago, we had to read them. They came in through the mail. They were mailed to us in the US mail, and we would mark up a purchase agreement and we would stick it back in the fax machine or stick it back in the mail. You had to read the document. What do they do now? They do a control whatever search to find the keywords that they think need to be changed. And I consistently tell them that in particular transactions, you have to slow down. You have to learn to read documents. And I think that's been a lost art in the field. It gets cumbersome, but it becomes extremely important. And the other piece of advice I give them is, and I give this to everyone I talk to, do not stop learning. Once I realized that I didn't have to stop learning and I could still pass tests and exams, that's what got me all of the degrees and all of the background, and got me to where I can talk fluently on most tax and legal questions on transactions, because we just don't stop learning. As I sit here now at the age of 45, I'm still working on some certifications in valuation. Just because I'm a CPA, that sets me to one level. There's other people that aren't CPAs that have certifications in valuation. Well, I want to be a CPA with all the certifications. So I do not stop learning. And that's what made me, I believe that's what made me successful and what continues to make me successful.
So this kind of one wrap up question here, final question is, we're just coming out of COVID as we're doing this interview here. Things are starting to look a little bit better than they have in the past. How do you think that this whole COVID experience has impacted the business and that you're in and entrepreneurs out there? Do you see the landscape changing, especially with the new current administration? Just give me your 2-minute overview of what you think the future is going to look like.
Well, it was very interesting because when COVID hit, everything stalled and stopped for a brief moment in time. And I do mean brief in this work, this M&A world. And then it took off like a rocket ship. So if that tells anybody anything, it's not going to stop. We're going to have our ups and downs. This is a field that will forever be around and continues to change. And we have major COVID hits, and the younger generation that works with me is nervous and is scared. Then they see it take off like a rocket ship, and they get all excited and energized. And now all of a sudden, this new administration, there's a tax bill looming. It's almost like another COVID is looming, and we can see it coming this time. And they're scared and they're nervous. And I'm scared and I'm nervous, but I know what'll happen. It'll hit. It'll stall us. It'll suppress us. But then what's going to happen? Someone's going to build a rocket ship. And we want to be on that ride. And we're going to be there. And we're going to be ready for it when it takes off again.
Well, word to the wise here is that I'm an optimist at heart, and we have our ups and downs, but we live in a great country, and we have this entrepreneurial DNA, in this country with founders out there. They'll always figure out a way to reposition themselves and to move forward. Well, this has been delightful to be able to chat with you, learn more about your skill set, your company, what you do, how you do it, how you charge for it, how founders and entrepreneurs out there that have companies can benefit from it. So we thank you for taking the time. If someone wanted to reach out and get a hold of you, can you tell us what would be the best way to do that?
Yes, and thank you very much for having me, and thank you for your time as well. And to reach out to me, the best spot is look at our website, taxplanning.com. Our phone numbers are on there, our emails are on there, and to the advisors and to the companies listening across the country, they're all welcome to get in touch with us via email or via phone, and we will respond directly back to you immediately.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Roman. This is Marvin L. Storm. We'll see you on our next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Business Exit Stories podcast. For more information or to reach out to today's guest, visit www.businessexitstories.com for more details. Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast from your favorite podcasting platforms. And remember, maximizing business value at the time of exit doesn't happen magically. It takes planning.